So you guessed it, another unboxing video. Well, this one's a bit different. I brought myself a Trend Pocket Hole Jig, and I really want to see what all the fuss is about. I see a lot of YouTubers and a lot of woodworkers use these sort of jigs, and I just really wanted to see if it's something that I would potentially want to use. And to be honest, I've never used it before, and it'll be interesting to find out whether it's something I will be using and whether it's going to be something I'll be keeping on the side in a cupboard collecting dust, or whether it'll be something I'll be using on a regular basis. If you want to find out, continue watching and I'm sure you'll get some more interesting tips and whether it will suit you or your DIY needs. In this video I'll be showing you how this pocket hole jig, sorry, not this one, this pocket hole jig has changed my views on using pocket hole joinery in my woodworking projects. So the reason I'm showing you this one is because this pocket hole jig, which I got from eBay for probably less than £5, it really put me off pocket hole joinery. I used it once or twice, it completely ruined the project, didn't work correctly, and I binned the idea. Then again, I came across this Trend Pocket Hole Jig from Amazon, and the reason I went for it is because it was on a sale from I believe £90 to £50 I paid for this. So I'll show you what's included in this pack you get, and also how it works and whether it's good or bad in general, and just my general thoughts on it. I've been using this for quite a few projects now, and I thought once I've put it in the test I can give it a good review and kind of see whether it's worth investing your money into this or just sticking with traditional woodworking joinery methods. And that's what I have been doing, but there's certain projects where I feel like I could just quickly just do a simple joint by using a jig like this to just get the job done faster. It doesn't necessarily need to look so great, it doesn't need to have a tremendous amount of strength, and those are the sorts of jobs I would use this. This wouldn't be my go-to jig to use in every single type of joinery, purely because it just isn't great for every single type of project. And what I mean by that is there are some flaws in using a pocket hole jig, and there are some positive sides as well, but I'll be going through that later in the video. So just to give you an idea of what exactly comes in the pack itself, you get the Trend Pocket Hole Jig as a whole. This is made out of metal as a whole, nice solid build, and it's easy to adjust, and I'll go through that in a minute. Following that you get the square tipped driver bit, and it's long because you need it to get a specific angle when you're trying to screw into your piece. You then get a small face clamp, which is great to hold the pieces together, and it's adjustable by moving this screw in and out. Only thing I would say with this is it would have been nice to have a plate like this on this side as well, just to give it a nice good surface area for something to clamp onto. But again, this comes with it. You can buy additional clamps separately, or you can just use a regular speed clamp or whatever you have in the shop. Following that you get a specific drill bit, and this one is very important because it's a step down bit, so it's narrow on the tip and then it increases its diameter as you go down into the bit, and it's a very, deep fluted bit, so it can release some of the sawdust as you're drilling in. And the next important bit is this bit, the drill bit stop, and what this is, it's a stop you have to put in place to measure the distance, for the correct distance for the bit to drill into, and we'll come back to that when I demonstrate and how the jig works as a whole. And you also get a little pack with various Allen keys, a smaller driver bit, and some additional screws. And the final thing you get, which is great, you actually get a small handful of pocket hole screws. The screws are important because they're self-tapping screws, with a flat head with a square driving bit. You can get other brands in this screw as well as the ones from Trend, Craig, I believe you can get some other brands as well. There's two types of threadings you get. You get one which is a looser thread, and that's for softwoods, and you get a finer thread for hardwoods. And they come in different lengths as well, but this is the size you get in the pack, and you get a fair amount to start off with. But if you're gonna be using pocket holes quite regularly, you want to store up on as many screws as possible, because before you know it, you'll end up going through quite a few of these screws, and you just don't want to run out. So this is what comes in the box. It's quite a lot, to be honest, for the money you pay. And I have to say the build quality of most of the stuff is very good, apart from, I would say, the clamp. It is a little bit clumsy in terms of the adjustments. The fact that it doesn't have a larger face plate on the additional side, and the fact that it's a little bit small, but because it comes free with the pack, I guess you can still use it, but you may want to get a clamp that's a bit more wider in terms of jaws, and also has additional clamp. And I know you can also get some which are automatically adjusted to the thickness of your piece. And again, if that's something, if you're going to be using pocket holes joinery quite a lot, that's something to invest in, because having to adjust the thickness every single time can be a bit tedious. But that's everything that's included, and that all comes in one big box, and it's I paid £50 or £55 for this pack, purely because it was on sale. So I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration on how the jig works, and what you need to do in order to create a joinery. For this particular demonstration, I've got some 18mm MDF that I'm using. One thing you want to bear in mind is the width of the pocket holes, and in terms of the distance between the two holes, can be adjusted. So you'd need to simply just adjust the reduce the tightness on this, like so, and you can move the actual two guides, in a sense, to the correct location. So I'm just going to set it there, and that's easy to adjust. Only thing I would say, there isn't anywhere on the jig where you can store these Allen keys, which is a little bit frustrating because you can lose them, but I got it stored in the box. And the next thing is, before you do anything, you will need your cordless drill, and get that in place. But before I do that, I just want to show you how to set the adjustment for the stop block. And what I do is I put the drill bit into the actual jig. Just before it touches the plate is where I'd stop it and lock this in place. And I've already done that off camera, just so you can see from a better view. It just stops before it touches the base plate. The next adjustment you may want to consider, depending on the thickness of your piece, is the actual stop itself. You can see here that it's holding in place, but it's not as strong, so you may want to just undo or tighten wherever it suits best and where you get a good clamping pressure. And again, once you've got it to a position where you feel it's nice and solid, it clamps in place, and you can adjust the second bolt to then hold that in place if you're doing consistent thicknesses. So again, just using 18mm MDF. I've got that in the pocket hole jig. I have it marked exactly where. I'm just going to do it where it sits best, and I'm going to clamp that in place, and you'll feel that it's solid by when you put pressure down. I normally just hold this clamp in place when I'm drilling, but if you want to screw them down, you can screw the jig down itself, and then it's just a matter of trying to drill these holes out. And what I try to do is drill a little bit and then pull out, and then drill a little bit more and pull out, just to relieve some of the sawdust. I don't know if you saw that on the camera, but it actually releases some of the sawdust on the sides as well as when you're lifting up. So what does it look like once you've drilled? it looks something like that. And to be honest, the bit that comes with this jig is very sharp and very smooth in terms of the hole it makes. And I know I'm using MDF here, but I've had similar results using hardwoods and plywood and pine and so forth, so it's consistent in terms of the result. And the next thing to fix this in place is to basically figure out where you want to join the piece. So you could join a piece like this, for example, if you're doing the frame. If you want to do some uprights, you can screw straight into the actual side and do a butt joint. So there's various things you can do. You can put the screws on the inside, screws on the outside. In situations, I would put screws on the outside is, for example, if you were going to make a drawer box, you'd want to put the screws on the outside because you'll have a face cover, which then will cover all the holes. If you're not too worried about the holes, you can put it on the inside. You can leave it as it is, or you can fill it with some wood filler, or you can actually fill it with some sort of wood plug, either dowels, or you can actually buy specific pocket hole plugs that go in here and they cut an angle. Personally, I haven't done that because I haven't had a need to. But for this particular one, I'm just going to do a sort of right angle on how I would have it face if I was to do like some sort of trim work. And again, this is where you need to use this clamp. For a piece like this, is quite fiddly, but I'll try my best to hold that in place. What I like to do is get the clamp, the pieces in the right place, as close as possible, in the center if we can, and then it's a little bit tight. For this particular demonstration, I'm just gonna use that like that and just tie it a little bit more. For a larger piece, you'd have it clamped nicely in a sense, but this is quite fiddly with a small one. And again, I would recommend using a drill as opposed to an impact driver, because you can control the speed, the torque, and you'd also be able to feel the teeth of the screws biting in the actual wood. And again, these are self-tapping screws with a flat head and a square bit. Just to give you a bit of a close-up of the bit and what it looks like. And all we simply do now is, if I was to do a full actual joint, I'll put some wood glue in there, put the two screws in, and you've got your piece nice and clamped, so just hold it in place, and nice and slowly just drill it through. And just release that now, and you'll see you've got a perfect joint, and it's nice and tight as well, which is really well. It's not flush because I didn't hold it in the right place, but generally in terms of that, if I was making a face frame, for example, that would be perfect. A little bit of sanding, undercoat and paint, and yeah, it would work great. In terms of what it looks like, that's what it looks like with the screws in there. Other than that, it's pretty neat. You can fill it, plug it, like I said, it's entirely up to you. So that's how you use the jig itself. Highly versatile in terms of how you can use it. And now let's go on whether it's worth your investment or not. So now that you've seen me use this Trend Pocket Hole Jig and how it works in a quick demonstration, there's just a few things I would mention. Is that there are a few flaws in using pocket hole joinery. It's one, the fact that it's just a screw holding the piece into place. If you use traditional joinery, it will always be stronger for the long term. I would use pocket hole joinery as such for things like if I'm making boxes or carcasses or if I'm making face frames or something like that. I wouldn't generally use it on like furniture builds, chairs and things like that, because it just doesn't add enough strength in my view. In terms of how else it can be used, it's a sort of jig that you'd use where you wouldn't mind seeing these sort of holes, or you can cover these holes with like a face in front, or you don't mind filling and painting it. But generally it leaves the actual holes which don't look so nice and don't look so great, and it requires an additional step of filling and then priming and painting. Other than that, the jig itself, the Trend jig itself, it's really strong, versatile, it's not poorly made whatsoever, good quality stuff. And this bit in particular is the most important part of the actual pack, and this is very sharp. It does exactly what it's meant to do. And the fact that you can adjust the width of the holes is a great thing. Only problem is you can't adjust the height of where the pocket hole starts for this particular one, but I believe Trend do another jig where you can adjust it height wise as well. So if that's something you'd want to use or you feel like you'd need, maybe look into that. Other than that, for my needs, like I said, I'll be using this for mainly boxes and carcasses, which are going to be sheet material, generally around 18mm, 15mm max. It works perfectly fine because I don't really need to adjust the height for that particular use. However, if you feel like you're going to use a thicker material and you need something where you can adjust height as well as the width of the pocket holes, you may want to consider the next level up. But for my needs and what I got it for, it's definitely worth the investment. I never realized how often I'd use a pocket hole jig until I got one that actually works. And because I got it on sale, it's just a bonus. But look out, there's always sales on Amazon. But generally my thoughts on the jig itself is highly positive. I get it a 5 out of 5 if I was rating it for my needs. However, your needs may be different. So have a look into the different types of pocket holes Trend does, and really consider whether this one or the one up would be suitable for you. If you've got any questions or would like to go into anything more deeper, feel free to comment below. I'll add a link to the one I purchased, and also please consider subscribing, and yeah, liking, sharing some of my videos, and check out some of my past videos I've done. And thank you and take care.